Okay, 10.3, closing costs. We are going to calculate the total closing costs. There's lots of things that come into play when you are signing your paperwork for a loan, and closing costs are one of those. So things that they might need to do. Maybe they need to make an appraisal on the house before you buy it so they know how much it's worth. Maybe there's some things in the house that need to be fixed. Like a leaky shower that's caused some damage underneath in the bottom floor, or maybe you know, just kind of a small maybe the furnace is bad, so you have to replace the furnace, you know, things like that. You want to kind of know about those ahead of time. So that nothing is kind of swept under the rug. So if you are buying a new home, obviously everything in there should be new, and then it would be covered by like a warranty situation. Or the people who installed it would come back and fix it within a certain amount of time. If it's a house that someone has already lived in, though, you want to make sure that the furnace is working properly, the water heater is working properly, air conditioning, central air, you know, all sorts of things, electrical. Is it a super old house where all the electrical needs to be fixed? That's a fire hazard. So a lot of those things kind of come into play when you are buying one. Next question, who makes money when you buy a home? Lots of people do. Whoever's selling it makes money. If you have to have an inspector, that would be in a house that someone has already lived in. They would catch all of the things like bad water heater, bad wiring, furnace, you know, troubles like that. Real estate agent, if you go through an agent and they are selling the house for them, they would make some money. The mortgage company or the bank, depending on who takes on the mortgage, and then there's lawyer fees as well. Sometimes there's an appraiser too. When we built ours, we had to have an appraiser come, and what they do is even though we know exactly how much we paid for our house, they appraise ours to all the newer ones that were built the same time as ours, so that everybody kind of has kind of a standard to go by. Let's look at page 381. Here's a list. It doesn't have to be this exact list. They can change one or two. They have an application fee. That's like the application that you fill out when you're filling out the paperwork for a loan. You probably need a credit check. They're going to check your credit so that they know, are you one that makes your payments on time? Do you have late payments all the time? Do you not make the payments? You know, things like that. Points, 2% of the mortgage. So here you would have to know what the mortgage is and take it times 2%. So sometimes on these questions we are going to have to find out what the mortgage is. Sometimes they give that to you right away. Appraisal fee, $325, title search, $212, and so on. So some of them are flat fees. Some of them are fees that you actually have to calculate, like the documentation stamp and the processing fee. Sometimes you have to pay these closing costs up front with cash. Sometimes they will intermingle them with the mortgage if that's something that they do. State Bank has approved a mortgage loan for Tricia and Bryce. Interest rate 8%, 25 years. The selling price was $125,000. They need a 20% down payment. So you're going to find out how much they actually need to borrow right away. So $125,000 times 20%. Is $25,000. And then you subtract to find out how much they have to borrow. So these people need to borrow $100,000. Now we need to find out those amounts that have a certain percentage of the mortgage. So what you guys will need to do is, if there is a mortgage amount given, you don't have to write this down. If there isn't, I want to know what is that loan number, because that's the one you're going to use for the next three things, okay, in this one. So the next one, we want to flip back to that table, and points is the first one that says you need to multiply the loan amount and of course that's the one that's in the box, times the percent that's given, which is 2%. Okay, the next one is the 2 at the bottom, documentation stamp. $100,000 again, times 0.3%. And then the processing fee is the loan amount times 1.1%. Now, these things are the numbers that I want you to show, not the actual work for it, because it kind of tells you what to do. Of means times in math, so that's all you're doing is taking that loan amount times those 3 things that have percentages there. So here, this one's going to be $2,000. This one is $300, and this one will be $1,100. Okay, so total closing costs would be these 3 plus all the other ones in the list. So grab your calculator and add up all of those other ones. So the ones that say 2% of mortgage, skip that one. The one that says 0.3% of mortgage, skip that one. Just do the ones that have exact amounts in there. And we're going to write this at the top of our paper so we don't have to do this every single time. And tell me what you got.
2064.
2064? Is that right? So on your paper, write this at the top. You don't have to write what it is. These are all the flat fees. So at the top of your paper for today, write 2064. So everyone that goes back to this particular table, you're going to start with this amount at the end. Okay, so you don't have to add them and re-add them and re-add them every single time. You don't even have to write that number down. The numbers that I want you to write down are the ones in the boxes. Okay, so far everything except for this one. So your loan amount is there. The 3 that you calculated are here. We're going to add all 3 of those plus that one. Okay, so we're only doing the closing costs right now. So closing costs would be $2,000. And I'm just writing what I'm doing. You guys would not have to write this. So all of the numbers from the table are 2064. All the ones we calculated were in the box. We're going to add all these together. $5,464. What is the actual amount financed with the mortgage? $5,464 plus $100,000. So $105,464. So everything that you guys are looking at on this page, the only one that I don't need is right here. That's going to be sitting at the top of your paper. Just use it. You don't have to write it down every time. I do want these numbers. So any of those that say 2% of the mortgage, calculate it, write that number down. You don't have to write down what you're doing. Just give me that number. You're going to add all those together, plus this one that you have at the top of your paper for Part A. For Part B, all you do is add in the loan amount. So it's not the total, it is the loan amount, which is the one that you take the down payment out of first. Okay, so